Just want to introduce ourselves first. This is a politically based podcast from two conservatives who voted for Trump but don't love Trump but don't hate him. We're actually out here. We're a rare species, but we're out
We are
here.
a species. We exist.
We're Republicans that enjoy something. We can call balls and strikes is how I want to put it.
There you go.
Donald Trump.
Yep.
And baseball metaphor of right up Key's alley.
Yep.
So Key, big baseball fan. I'm a football fan, but I respect baseball. So I have nothing but good things to say about it. Plus, my pastor is a huge Yankees fan. I know you love that, Key. So.
Oh boy. Well, that's one strike for him. Pun slightly intended.
Nice. Yeah, he's Key, as you might guys don't know yet, but she is a big Boston Red Sox fan. So let the rivalry live on here.
That I am.
We want to give you a brief introduction to who we are. We both been in politics for a long time, aging back to our early 20s, maybe late teens, and both been part of Young Republicans in Florida. Yeah. And Key has actually been a part of congressional campaigns and things like that. I was a little bit more local, but Key always helped with every Republican on every level try to get elected. So, if it was a dog catcher, she'd be out walking. I mean, so
I'm still tired from it.
Jeez, I'm no kidding. My feet are still messed up. All those hot Florida summers and on the road like that. Oh my gosh, it's funny when you see photos of people walking and they're wearing like wingtips and a suit, and you're like, you what do you do? One door?
Yeah. No. Where are you walking? Like what state? You're certainly, and for those who probably don't know, since nobody knows us yet, is we are from the great state of Florida. So when we say we walked campaigns, Florida has like 3 days that are like under 80 degrees. So I know for me, I knocked in 2010 alone, I knocked on 15,000 doors in one of the hottest summers on record in Florida. That was 15 years ago. And I got to tell you, I'm still tired from it. Like I'm still feeling like I'll be like, I need to take a nap because of all of the walking that I did 15 years ago.
You know, Key, I'll tell you, you may not know this story, but when I was president of Young Republicans of Volusia County, and there was split, I'm not gonna get into the reasons, but there was split. Obviously, you were president of the eastern side, and my focus was, okay, Key is a great asset to have in the Young Republicans, and I was like, we went and we met, and we're like, okay, let's team up and let's get this going. And Key became a part of the cabinet in that. And I remember the state literally called me and said, "You got Key back? How did you do that?" And so you had a name, and everybody knew who you were, and they knew how important you were. So it wasn't.
But here's the thing. You make a good point, or you bring up a good point, and that's you get people who are passionate. Which if any downfalls I may have as a professional, it certainly my passion makes up for those downfalls. You take good people like that, like you and I, and then what ended up happening, and you ended up with beef with the party because they didn't want two different young Republicans in the same county, even though, like a lot of counties, Volusia is the needs of the east side and the needs of the west side are vastly different. The east side of Volusia County, for anybody who knows what we're talking about, is Daytona Beach. We have Bethune-Cookman. We have Embry-Riddle. We have Daytona State College. We have Palmer Chiropractic. We have the beaches. We have the beach. We have Bike Week. We have Daytona 500. On the west side, it's a totally different lifestyle. You all are not necessarily coastal. I mean, you're coastal by I mean, you definitely like get like the coastal stuff. Everybody's coastal.
We have a Beef O'Brady's. I think that's about it.
And you guys have Interstate 4.
A lot of I-4.
Most of I-4. But the needs are completely different. And also to go from one side of the county to the other, there's actually, the Osceola County National Forest, Osceola National Forest in between east and the west side. So it's a big county. It's a really big county. So
I remember most of our resources were coming from the east side at the time. So I was like, let's just do it at the Red Lobster in Daytona. And that's our spot. That's it. And we're not going back and forth.
And that was smart, because also here's the thing though, is like you were trying to centralize it and you were doing what was best for the party. And the party got involved at the state level. Yeah. And once again, the Republican Party fought itself. And I'm like, and to the extent that it harmed the party. All that said, Corey and I go way back, at least 15 years. I know my first jump into all this was 2008. The first time I did anything like political in the sense that like I was always very politically minded, very astute when it came to those things as a young person, was 2008. And I friends for John McCain. The first political rally I ever went to was a John McCain rally. I was, it was exciting, and I was naive enough to think he actually stood a chance of winning because I was just so in the grind. But that opportunity,
I think none of us were deluding ourselves into the
I definitely was. I had definitely completely deluded myself because I was so in it, and I was just such a like it was my first like campaigns are electric. I mean, there's energy in campaigns, and I mean, I get why people want to mainline that stuff because you really you run on adrenaline for whatever period of time. In 2010, I was part of a congressional campaign that got national attention, and it was, I mean, I feel like whatever adrenaline I may have left in my body that gets me through situations, maybe still left over residuals from that campaign, which was my last official campaign before I sunsetted my career in politics.
Well, 2010 was a fun year for sure. If you're right wing, it was a fun year.
Oh, it was a terrible year if you were on one of the guys in blue. We held signs that said "Fire Nancy Pelosi," and I'm proud. I think you're proud, Corey. We were part of the group of people who successfully fired her the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I have a sign somewhere in my basement. I have like a box of political campaign, memorabilia, and I have a big red sign rolled up that said "Fire Pelosi," and it might be one of my favorite things.
And then she got rehired, unfortunately.
And then she did, but it's okay. It's okay. I think it's not her fault. Yeah, exactly. That didn't happen on our watch. So that's Corey and I's backgrounds. I did go on to work for a member of Congress, so I had 2 years.
A really great member of Congress.
Yes, I did work for a fantastic member of Congress who, once again, talk about the party just shooting themselves in the foot. She was primaried and lost. And it's okay though, because the part of the district that I represented, which was Volusia County, got a new member of Congress. It's a gentleman. What was his name? Nobody ever heard of him. Oh, Ron
DeSantis. Ron something. Yeah. Hey, whatever happened to him?
I don't know. I think he had potential though.
Now we might see how his wife has potential. So.
Yeah, and for our listeners, Corey and I are both huge Ron DeSantis. We like fangirl and fanboy over Ron DeSantis. Like he's like nothing excites Corey and I more than to send a clip to one another of him just like owning the media or just taking anybody to task or just being exceptional like he is.
Yep. Absolutely.
And being from a state that gets hit by hurricanes often enough that it's a part of life, and maybe not to the extent that people think it is. We're not talking Katrina level. Corey and I, both being Florida natives, I don't live there anymore. I live in the great Commonwealth of Virginia, that is currently run by the great Glenn Youngkin. But we've seen governors handle hurricanes bad, mediocre, and great. And I would say the best two have been Jeb in our lifetimes, been Jeb Bush and Ron DeSantis. Those two guys Ron DeSantis had a whole bridge rebuilt in like 30 days or something.
No, yeah. 3 days.
3. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was crazy fast. Nobody could believe it.
Hat tip to that. Meanwhile, I live an hour and a half from Baltimore, and that bridge, they're like, it'll be like a 10-year project to get that bridge rebuilt.
We were joking down here. We just said Ron up there. Just let him handle this thing. Jeez, get it done.
Seriously, I know. I'm like, where I'm from, that would have been done already. And that was, 2 years ago now? So
sometimes you just gotta I love competent leadership. It can't just be ideology. So.
Yeah. And I thought for Westmore, that was going to be like a moment where it was going to be an inflection point for the Democrat Party. Like this is the next tier of leadership for the Democrat Party. And I think he did a great job of managing the crisis. I don't understand. And to be fair, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I can't say it's a story I've tracked a lot, even being local. But I just don't understand. It's such an important port, and it was such an important bridge. I don't know why they aren't prioritizing it more than they are. But I think he had his moment in the sun, and we'll see we'll see what happens in the next, like, I would say 2 years, in terms of once we start to see who's going to rise to the top here and kind of look like, they're going to ascend the throne of the Democrat Party. And I do think Westmore is on that list. I think him and Shapiro are definitely on that list.
Oh, absolutely.
But let's talk about, that's topic we can talk about. We know for sure. But let's, I know that we wanted to start by talking, we wanted to rate President Trump 2.0. His first is 40%. We're quickly approaching the 50% mark in the first 100 days. I have strong opinions about those first 40 days. I know that you have strong opinions. I have a rating, like a grade, that I'd like to give him. What would be your grade? Do you have a grade?
I'm gonna go B for now.
B.
It's definitely not an A, but it's, to me, he's doing better than he did the first go around. And but there's also consequences of that. Sometimes he's 100 mile an hour on too many things.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I'll tell you, back in 2010 when we were in our Tea Party days, I didn't give a rip about foreign policy. I just didn't. Economy. What the heck? Economy.
Strategery.
I combined economic and economy on that one. Economy was my thing. Whoever was good on the economy is part of why I voted for Rick Scott in the primary for 2010. But that being said, I never saw Donald Trump as like this great economist or great handler of the economy. It's not that, but I do think he's actually might be one of the better presidents of our lifetime on foreign policy. Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll see how this whole shakes out. But I don't know what you can't really. I'm an incomplete on the economic changes right now. I don't know.
It's too soon.
Way too soon. And I do like his energy policies. He's crushed. He's A+ on the border right now. He's crushing it on the border.
Yeah, no, I will agree with that because my score is pretty low, but I will agree 100% on the border. And the time that Corey and I are having this conversation, we're less than 24 hours out from Trump and Vance just owning Zelensky in the Oval Office. And so I think...
Which everybody has mixed reactions to.
Yeah, I know. And it's also worth noting that Corey and I are both, being Floridians, which is like half of his cabinet right now, we are huge. We're also big Marco Rubio fans. And so knowing how hard he's worked to get us to this point with Zelensky as well. So for me, this is going to be wildly unpopular, but I'm going to say C-. And I'll tell you why. Yes, I love what he's done with the border. Absolutely. My sister's in Texas, which means I've got a nephew and 2 nieces that are sitting very close to that border. I live not far from where one of our, what are we calling them?
For those that don't know, Key, those are like her children. So those
my nieces and my nephews are they're as if they are my very own. Yeah, I mean, it's just the border. He's knocking it out of the park. My rating though is a C-, and I'll tell you why. The primary reason is, one is a personal one to me, and that's the way he's handling the reduction force, or the RIF, because I'm personally impacted by it. But the other thing is, really, he's done so much good, but right now, today, he has both chambers. I need to see him go to Congress and get these things codified. I don't want the next Democrat to come into office and say that boys can be on girls' sports teams, or be in, like this laundry list of things that he has signed EOs that have been fantastic. I mean, that's the one that definitely comes.
Well, at least they passed a terrible budget, so that's good.
Well, in Congress, we still got to get it cleared through the Senate, so we're only halfway there. And I will also say part of the reason I give him that C- too is because I don't believe in one big beautiful bill, because I'm anti-pork. And I think that that's not the smart way to do it. If you really don't want another CR, I think you do have to do multiple bills. We need to make sure that your defense budget is separate from your infrastructure bills and stuff like that. Like your NDAA, I mean, it's its own bill usually, but National Defense Authorization Act, like you need to separate these things, but you just don't want to muddy the waters. Yeah. And you end up doing that. And I think you make a lot of compromises when you do one big beautiful bill. It sounds easy, it sounds nice, just put a bow on the damn thing and shove it down, punt it down to the...
A big bill is like microwave food. It's quick, easy, but it's not nourishing.
There you go. You nailed it there. Yeah, that's exactly it. And no, we want the filet mignon. We want it fresh off the grill. We want it. We
Fresh
want it.
vegetables. We get, I mean, nobody likes vegetables, but when you make them fresh and you put a little garlic
Yep,
on them, they're actually easy to choke down. And
exactly.
I mean, we gotta make hard decisions to start fixing the finances of this country. I don't think Trump is
Yep.
equipped to do it. I mean, we'll get into Doge here in a little bit, but um, as far as from we gotta tackle some serious spending expenditures and entitlements. I don't want to include Social Security and entitlement because I don't really think that is an entitlement. You're paying into
No,
it,
you're paying into it.
but other
You
stuff like
only get it. You only get it for working.
exactly. So Medicaid, Medicare, things like that. Other stuff too that are a little smaller. But that being said, we got to tackle those things that are just becoming
Yeah.
gargantuan, problems. Little pinpricks here and there is not going to do it. So, but I mean, Trump has never proven to me that he's the guy to like go to Congress and say we need to fix this now.
Right. And that's the thing is I would like to see the bravado take a back seat to the fact that he needs to start being a legislator, which I know inherently the executive branch is not, it's obviously we have three branches of government. Executive is separate from the legislature, but you have to back up what the executive branch is doing with legislation. And we all know this. There's a really good chance the Republicans will lose one or both chambers in 2026, which is only next year.
Probably the House. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, slim margin, obviously.
Two seats.
2 seats, right? Also, why did he just keep taking people out of Congress? By the way,
I mean, some of them were good people. Like Mike Waltz was a great guy.
Oh, fantastic!
Thankfully, he took him out of areas where we could easily win back, but still.
Yeah, I just never trust. There's not a day I trust a Democrat, though. I will say where if I could give him if I could give him a separate rating, in terms of performance, and then separate the people he has surrounded himself with this go around,
much better.
Day and night. Like I have a lot of respect for Mike Pence. I have an immense amount of respect for Mike Pence. JD Vance was not my pick for vice president. You and I have talked about this. I remember you saying to me, it's who he's going to pick. That's who he's going to pick. And I was like, come on, it's going to be Rubio. And then when he picked Vance, I'm like, who is this guy? And then you and I both were like, holy cow, this guy is incredible. He gave a master class like every day on how to handle the media during the campaign. I mean, just off the cuff stuff that he did in terms of his response, and watching him yesterday with Zelensky, incredible. And we're talking about a guy who's our age. I mean, just incredible. But his cabinet picks have been top notch. I mean, you remember the message I sent you after I found out he picked Gates. I was done. I was like, I wish I voted for Harris, which I mean, I don't really wish that, but I mean, it was bad. Like my feelings about Matt Gaetz are bad.
I don't think anything could drive us to want to vote for Harris.
That's true.
That's another show, but still, that's.
It was hard. That was a hard pill to swallow, especially like I heard him say some time ago. I forget when, maybe during all the inauguration stuff, when people said, who should I pick for seats? The one thing that everybody said is, you should pick Pam Bondi for AG. And it's like, why didn't you take that advice out, like out of the gate? Like, look at what she's phenomenal. So he has, I'll say the one pick that I'm not wild about is RFK, just because I think he's a wool in sheep's clothing at this point. He's still a Democrat. He's a Kennedy. He's always going to be a Kennedy. No matter how many Kennedys like renounce him, he's always going to be a Kennedy. So I don't fully trust him. But I can overlook that when you look at Bondi, Rubio. You and I were just having this conversation this morning. Rubio is having his finest moment right now. He was a stellar senator. He's a blow.
People are discovering who Rubio really is right now. And you and I knew this back when he ran for president. People said he was weak and soft, and this dude's a bulldog. You don't even realize.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he comes off as eloquent. He can speak. That doesn't make him soft.
No.
Nah, this guy's that famous picture now that he's looking pissed off on the couch during the riff. I love it because I had idiots who hate Trump who were saying, "Oh, this is Rubio realizing he should have never joined." Like, no, this is Rubio hating on Zelensky. He cannot stand that little midget right now.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is, I remember hearing Rubio years ago in one of the million some speeches that you and I both heard him give. I could probably still give his 2010 some speech. He said, you don't see hordes of Americans washing up on the shores of other countries. And you know what? There's a reason why you don't see that. And I think what's going on with Ukraine is, even though it's not an immigration issue, there's a reason. There is an exceptionalism to America. I read a book by Eric Larson, The Split in the Bio, and it's about World War II and Churchill and Roosevelt. And you know what Churchill was doing is he was biding his time to get America to come bail him out. That's what we are. We are the world's big brother. And we don't need Zelensky. Zelensky needs us. Yeah, he doesn't need to kiss. I don't think he needs to kiss our ring.
No,
I don't think but
we don't need to make him, bend over, kiss us in the butt, literally. No. But we don't need to embarrass him, not like that. But I don't think Churchill ever sat. I mean, I don't think there was TV cameras back then, as prevalent as today, obviously. But he never sat in that room with the president and just made demands. And
no,
it's just like Churchill knew better. He knew diplomacy. He knew how to work with his allies. Everybody, let's go into that riff real quick because I got a lot. It's just burning in me because I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. I'm not saying Trump is a perfect gentleman, or I'm not saying any of that stuff. Trump has embarrassed me plenty of times with his actions in the Oval Office and how he speaks to other dignitaries and leaders. But I actually, for the first time in a while, felt like extreme pride to be an American because of how Trump responded to Zelensky. I'm tired of this crap. I don't understand the other side of this. We're supposed to just fund a stalemate for the rest of our lives. I don't get that. He keeps coming asking for money. What we're asking is for a rare mineral deal that will give us something back. So right. I'm like, and you're mad. Liberals and the left are mad that a U.S. president is representing the interest of the United States. I don't understand what the problem is. I stand with Ukraine. No, I stand with America. I don't stand with Russia. I don't stand with Ukraine.
Let me liberal explain this to you.
Oh, okay.
I've never been one.
There's mansplaining and then there's liberal explaining.
Liberal explaining, and according to liberals, anytime a man speaks, that's what it is. I've never been a liberal, much like I've never been a man, and much like I can never be a man, I could never be a liberal.
You can say what you are, whatever you want. That's the new rule.
Apparently, I think it's anything but America. Anything but American exceptionalism. That's the only thing that is ever going to pass with Democrats. The second you start looking like America has something to offer that's greater than any other country, or you talk about something being American made being greater, that's antithetical to our platform. Also, these are the folks that they believe in entitlements, and what we are doing and have been doing to Ukraine is not a hand up, it's a hand out.
Yeah.
We're not teaching a man to fish. We're just sending him a whole bunch of fish, and then he's passing them out to some of his people, and then some of them he's just throwing away for the hell of it. It's like he's not making good on it. So I think for liberals, it makes sense. These are the folks who think that the way that you stay somehow work, I think, kind of indirectly conquering Ukraine by I don't know, or Russia. I don't know. And I think that they forget.
They look at it like Trump's trying to make him kiss his ring. I'm like, no,
yeah,
I didn't see that at all. Don't get me wrong, Trump has done that.
Oh yeah,
but that's not this situation. This situation, Americans are kind of getting tired of this. It's been 3 years. CNN showed a poll in 2022 when the war started. Only 7% said we're giving too much to Ukraine. Now it's 41%. People are getting tired of this.
Yep. Well, I think
Trump's representing that. I'm sorry. No, that's all I had to say, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you said it earlier. We just got out of a 20-year war. And what did we do? We kind of did the same thing to Afghanistan, kind of indirectly in a weird way, where we left Afghanistan, but with billions of dollars of equipment there. Like at some point, we're going to run out of things. And at some point, some superpower, I don't know, Russia, is going to come after America. And if I believe in being benevolent, and I definitely believe that America is who we are, and we should help people out. I'm not against that by any stretch of the imagination, but we've got to do it in a way that is strategic. And why are the same people who are decrying, or the same people who are, decrying his actions yesterday and talking about how wonderful Ukraine is, or like, but Israel, they're fine. They don't need our help. Yeah. Okay, let's also talk about the difference here. Israel's never really directly asked for our help. we've just been like, hey, let's help, let's be like a booster
And
pack
Israel
for
gives
you.
back.
And Israel gets back. Exactly. And they are they've been an ally of America, and a necessary and important ally.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that, we should be defending our Jewish brothers and sisters. And I feel like we're not, that's all gone by the wayside too. But yesterday, with the whole thing that happened with Zelensky, Trump, and Vance, I was telling you earlier that I was looking for something from Trump, and I was waiting for him to be like, well, I did this. And I didn't hear that. I heard America did this. America showed up for you. He really divorced
us the most.
It did. Like, he divorced himself of the situation. And I heard what if you had heard the expression "Make America Great" 15 years ago, that's what it would have sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
Before it became MAGA, when it was just 4 words, right? Like, that to me is what MAGA would have sounded like, or what Make Great America Great Again would have sounded like. That reminds me of John McCain and Country First. Like, that statement. It's not like, to use John McCain's slogan, country first doesn't mean everybody else can just go,
of course,
kick rocks. That's not what we're saying.
He was saying country for party is what he was really kind of saying.
Exactly.
He was known as the Maverick.
And above self. And I heard Trump yesterday put country above self. And
I felt that too. It's the first time I've ever felt that from Trump too. Like, I mean, everybody said, oh, he's America first. I'm like, I don't agree. But that time, in that moment, I was like, he's America first right now.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, what I loved about it is, like, people try to say, well, JD, I mean, an old friend of mine said, if JD effed that up, or I'm not going to drop F-bombs, but he effed it up. I said, no, he didn't. He at the end, when it was almost over, and JD took a swipe at Biden, which they've been doing the whole press conference for what it's worth. He took a final swipe at Biden and talked about diplomacy. We're trying to find peace, to find a resolution of peace. Got mad at JD and questioned him on, what does that peace look like? You can't trust Putin, and you can't, if you're gonna. Here's a harsh truth. Here's a harsh truth, Key, and you know this as well as I do. Any peace that happens right now is going to have to involve Putin. We don't like Putin, but it's going to have to involve him.
Absolutely.
Whether you like it or not. You're not going to. It's not going to end in the total destruction of Russia and Putin. It's not going to. That's not what's going to happen here. So
no, but right now, in what has been happening for the last 3 years is we have been in a proxy war with a country that Reagan ended the Cold War, 35 years ago. And we've kind of entered back into it in a weird way. It's a proxy war. And how is that any worse or better, or been any better rather, than the Cold War?
Except this is one where people are dying.
Right. Exactly. And I think I think there's higher stakes this time than there was last time. And I think you and I both said the same thing, because Corey and I sent voice memos back. The greatest podcast that you've never heard, other than this one, of course, is the messages between Corey and I the last several years. But you and I both separately, not knowing the other one was saying it, is what we saw. It was, yes, we were both, I know, very proud of Trump. Not a sentence I ever say. But I know I felt like I was looking at the next president of the United States, listening to JD Vance. Like, I was like, that's a guy, if this is 2028 and I got to vote for someone in the primary, Vance, he's gonna get a really hard look. Like, I'm thinking that might be my guy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know yet. There's a long way to go, but he looked and sounded presidential, and we saw a team in the White House. Yeah. When was the last time we saw a team in the White House?
It was great when Zelensky started interrupting and trashing JD, and Trump really just kind of put his hand, I got this, homie. And,
like he passed it off to him.
And then Trump literally fed him his lunch, and and then kicked him out of the house. I was just like, you're right, a team. And Rubio was on the couch just sitting there like, I'm hating Zelensky right now.
What was it you were telling me? Rubio like stripped him of something, or you were telling me that?
I forgot what it was. It was I sent you a tweet about it, or post or whatever. And he stripped him of something immediately. It was pretty like, whoa. And but he was I guess the Rubio went on CNN and said, "Look, we've had 3 meetings with the guy. We're talking with foreign dignitaries. And then he goes out and says we're not including him, which is a bunch of bull. And then we JD and I, or he said, well, he says the vice president and I, me, I'd be like, nah, JD and I just sat in a meeting with him about the rare mineral. He says, let me check with my legislature. We think we have a deal." And then 2 days later, he says, "I'll reject the deal" out in the press. He doesn't even tell me or talk to me about it. This Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, has literally said this is the 3rd time he's rejected the deal. This guy is not an honest broker. He's just not easy to deal with. And people act like it's Trump and JD who are the problem. I'm sorry, but at the end of that press conference, I've seen it several times now. He wants to question JD and then lecture him while he's questioning him, and then finish with a question. JD listens the whole time, doesn't interrupt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then JD starts to speak. Within 2 seconds, Zelensky starts shouting over him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. I said this to Key earlier. I've had these situations with people. If I listen to you and you refuse to listen to my answer when you directly ask me a question, I get ticked off.
Most people do.
It was an antagonistic move.
Mm-hmm.
He started the flare up on that, and then this guy goes after he wants to question about peace and diplomacy from JD, who didn't take a swipe at Zelensky at all.
Nope.
He goes on Brett Baer saying we're looking for a lasting peace. You can't have that if you're not going to sit down at the table. You can't have that because you're crying about ceasefires. It has to start with a ceasefire, whether you like it or, but we can't trust them. Well, guess what? Like Trump said, if they break it, they break it. I don't know what you want me to do. What if they break it? Well, what if a bomb falls on your head? I mean, it's just like, stop asking these scenarios. We got to jump off these bridges when we come to them, but it has to start with a ceasefire. And then we can start talking securities, and then we can start talking deals. It's just ridiculous. The back and forth Zelensky's doing to make, and Rubio said it. I don't want to question his motives, but he's starting to make me think he actually wants to continue to go to war.
Well, here's the question. What happens to Ukraine if the war ends? And that's a hard question to ask. And that sounds like I don't have sympathy for what they're going through. But what does that look like? It takes the spotlight off of Ukraine, and it may take away from some of the humanitarian efforts that are happening in that country, which is unfortunate. And I'm not saying that something I want to happen to Ukraine. I don't want to see Ukraine, because here's the thing: I can separate the Ukrainian government from the Ukrainian people.
Of course.
And so it does.
You don't want this to happen to the people, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there may be an ulterior motive. What was interesting is with the Brett Baer interview is he kept looking off camera. He was looking at, not him being Zelensky, not Baer. You got to wake up pretty early to pull one over Brett Baer, one of the finest in the business.
Yeah, he's good.
Zelensky kept looking off camera, like not like over the camera, like it was like, and like if Brett was to the left of him, and he was like looking to the right. And it's like I think he was getting like signs from his handlers, because you're right. He flipped. Like there wasn't that big of a difference in time between. There couldn't have been. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, that interview with Brett Baer was live.
I didn't see it live. I'm sure it might have been live. I just didn't see it live. I saw the recording of it.
Well, no, I mean, I say it was live when it aired. Like I'm saying, it wasn't like a pre-recorded thing. It wasn't recorded.
I didn't even know he was going on Brett Baer after that. I was like, oh, he's on Brett. I was all of a sudden, he's on Brett Baer. Okay.
Oh yeah, I had gotten the news alert from Fox, so I knew he was going on Brett Baer's show. But yeah, it was all very weird. And then my husband discovered Lindsey Graham yesterday. I was like, oh, well, welcome to Lindsey Graham. Yeah, and Lindsey Graham, who's been so pro-Ukraine, came out and
nobody loves war like Lindsey Graham.
Exactly. But did you see Lindsey Graham's response?
Yeah, he was on Zelensky. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was exactly. And he told, Zelensky, basically you can go pound sand. Like, I mean, he might be pro Ukraine and war, but he's a big Trump person. But I think those two kind of met in the middle in his head, and he saw that situation for what it was. I don't think the relationship is irreparable.
Trump can forget things in a minute and be your friend if you say his tie looks good. I mean, it's just It's like, hey, Mr. President, your tie is amazing. Oh, thank you. I've always said Zelensky's a great guy.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right about that. So I mean, I don't think all is lost for Ukraine. I don't know.
I think getting Rubio to trust him from now on is going to be a difficult task. So
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that'll be a tall order. Yeah, it was interesting. It's going to go down in history as either Trump's finest hour or the beginning of even more turmoil. To
me, it was very close to a tear down this wall moment for me.
Yeah,
very close. I mean, because I mean, how many times we've seen our leaders get in there and they get bullied by little leaders like this? Like,
yeah,
you know who we are? We're the United States of America. You're not. You need us. We, like you said earlier.
right.
We don't need you.
Yeah,
we'd like to get rare mineral back from you, but you don't want to sign the deal, so we'll get it from Russia.
Yeah. And,
I kind of like that way of thinking, in my opinion. Sorry.
Well, it's like Trump has talked about creating what is it, a Department of Internal Revenue? Is that what it is? Where he's talking about a department that would handle money that comes into America, not from citizens, but isn't that one of the departments? Isn't that what he's calling that?
Sure.
Yeah. So he definitely has.
It's an interesting idea, though.
It definitely has. He's looking. What you're saying is he's looking for the business opportunity there, and I can't say that I've ever heard Trump say anything. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so moving. And you hear speeches by, it's easy to go back to Reagan and even 41 and at times 43. Even Obama gave speeches that I was like, you know what? I almost believe he thinks that. I almost believe him.
Ironically, Reagan was the actor that Obama had to make me believe things that he actually said at times. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can't say that in, what are we, 8-9 years into this Trump thing, whether it's him as president or Trump as the wish he was still president kind of guy.
He was leader of the party last 8 years, no matter what. So
that what happened yesterday is the closest to like, one of those rousing speeches where we're like, I
was hearing Bill Pullman from Independence Day in my head.
Exactly. yeah. No, like you really like almost heard. Like I was surprised Lee Greenwood didn't just come out from like the closet and just start. It was that kind of a moment. I think like how like the media, like they'll always do like a reflection of the year and they put like music to it and I'll show like I think that when this is going to be one of those things that they're gonna it's certainly at least for 2025 we'll see what the next
how many TikTok videos I'm seeing from young people who are saying I loved what he did, because I think a lot of people from previous administrations, and I honestly, Bush was the last time I felt like people weren't just walking over us. In fact, I thought it was hilarious when somebody posted up he would have welcomed Zelensky as a hero. I'm like, Bush didn't hate him, actually.
No.
So I don't think that's McCain might have if he were president, but that being said, I was just like, you know what, Bush made me feel proud when he's on the rubble 2001 and he said we can hear you, and they're gonna, I mean, that was like a tear down this wall moment.
That was not written. Have you read
completely ad-libbed? Yep.
Have you read Decision Points by him? If you haven't, highly recommend it, or listen to it on audiobook. Hearing him talk about that moment, hearing Dana Perino talk about that moment, she wasn't his press secretary at that point, and hearing Condoleezza Rice talk about it, because I've doing a deep dive, and I don't know why, into the Bush
administration, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, if I could meet anybody, it would alive, it would be probably Condoleezza Rice, even though I'd have no earthly clue what to say to her, because her IQ is about 78 times higher than mine, and she's just, I totally fangirl over Condoleezza Rice. I know. But I mean, come on, Corey. The woman is brilliant. But yeah, I mean, I think, you and I are talking about this, for all of Bush's shortcomings, 41 or 43 shortcomings, and I'm a big fan of Bush. Not popular, I realize, to say that. More popular in 2025 than it was, in 2008 when or 2009 when he left office. But the thing about 43 is, if he said, if you fly your jet into our airspace, we're going to shoot you down. That's what he did. He didn't like, okay, well, I mean, maybe next time you do it.
Exactly.
No, he was like, no, we're going to shoot you down. And people believed him. You know, he put his money where his mouth was, and I heard a little bit of that yesterday.
Absolutely. I didn't feel like it was false bravado. I think
No,
Trump was legitimately ticked off, and I mean, like, look, again, you just keep coming and begging us for money, and they would say we need to say thank you. Well, he has said thank you. Look at he's being an antagonistic jerk. I mean, the whole time I'm watching the press conference, he's always making faces, he's rolling his eyes a little bit, he's just being disrespectful, and apparently
yep,
the people in the administration at the time, even as that was going on, were getting more and more pissed off. Like it's like he's just being disrespectful to Trump and our president and stuff like that. And it's just like, look, you don't have to love Trump, but he's our president.
yep.
And foreign leaders need to be respectful to him. And I'd say if they are respectful to him, he needs to return that. But Zelensky was not respectful. He just but it's petulant. It's like a petulant child coming and asking for a freaking allowance, and it's like, okay, dude, okay, we have to have some. I'm sorry, we have to have some conditions on giving you hundreds of billions of dollars now.
Yep.
I've been screaming for a president to do that,
Right.
even in Trump's first term, for 20 years now. I've been like, we should have conditions on this money. It's our tax.
But that's what happens when you take out a loan.
Exactly.
Like if you go take out a student loan and you're like, I decided not to use it on my education, I'm gonna go buy a car. That's fraud.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that. Like there's conditions. You have to pay it back. And I mean, we could sit here and go through all the conditions of a loan, but that is how that works. And I can guarantee you, if you go ask a friend or your relatives, hey, I need to borrow, money, there's going to be some kind of conditions. It may not be, they're going to be whatever. People rarely just hand you money and go, hey, go nuts, on whatever you want to do. And yeah, we need to make sure it's in America's best interest. Because are we really stopping World War III? Are we really stopping Putin?
If anything, we might have been cited.
Well, yeah. And to your point with Bush, it just shows you the difference in Putin. Putin is a complicated guy. Let's call it what it is. We're not talking about, Hitler in Germany. It's not the same guy. The left likes to make him say they're the same guy.
To the left, everybody's Hitler. Like literally
that's
everybody.
True. That is true.
I mean, Barron Trump is Hitler now. I mean, it's just like, okay, he's 18, sure, he's Hitler, whatever. Yeah.
That's a fair point.
I was saying this the first term, by the way, for Trump, when people like, oh, he's this, he's that, and I have my Jewish friend, he's Hitler. Like, no, he's freaking not. He's got a lot of problems. I don't like him as a person. He's a philanderer. I don't like that. He's kind of a jerk. I don't like that. But he's not freaking Hitler. Stop it. But it's one of the few times I've actually felt proud to be an American, and I mean, I hate to say it like that. I'm proud to be an American. I'm grateful to live here, but there's times I just like don't trust the electorate, and there's all kinds of other issues that go along with it. But that being said, it doesn't matter. I'm not arrogant enough to believe I should be dictating who leads us, obviously.
No. And I'm always proud of my country, even when
you are Miss Americana. Yes, absolutely.
But I mean, like, were you not proud of America when Biden was president? I mean, I'm still proud of America.
I'm grateful to be an American. I'm tired of a government that's making it increasingly harder for us to carve out a living. And and during COVID, I really lost a lot of my love because I was just sick of how leaders were. I'm talking like you talk about let them have their cake and eat it too type people. Let them eat cake. Sorry, is a little more. Just people who were telling us we couldn't go to work yet they were collecting a massive paycheck and still going on about business as usual and claiming it was for our own safety. It made me sick. It really just because people were calling me, bawling their eyes out how they're losing everything, and these politicians are just like, nope, for safety, gotta do it for months on end. It's just like it
was supposed to be weeks. Remember, it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, and then it became 3 years.
It was literally Money Pit 2 weeks. Like it's always 2 weeks. Remember that movie? And
Money Pit, I love that movie.
Starring Tom Hanks, who's now an Australian citizen, I think. So
they can have him.
I don't care. Yeah,
the same day the whole thing happened with Nancy Pelosi going to the hair salon, I had gone to the hair salon, and I go to a conservative hair salon. And they're like, you gotta keep your mask on because we're gonna end up losing our license. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi's walking around, in California, one of the hardest hit states by COVID, without a mask on because rules are for us, not her.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was. What's scary, Corey, is we know that if something serious happens again that's similar to that, we're not going to trust him. I mean, if there was an Ebola outbreak, which is deadly, actually deadly to everybody who gets it,
I'll trust Dustin Hoffman. That's it. If that happens.
Well, I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah, and Morgan Freeman for sure. But
absolutely, because
no, wait, I won't trust him. He was like part of the problem in that movie. Okay, never mind. But he admitted his fault later on, so okay.
He did. He came around.
Donald Sutherland passed away, unfortunately, so he can't hurt us now from that.
I know.
So. I actually do. He was a great actor. I'm not gonna.
No, he was. Yeah. He was good.
And now Gene Hackman's gone. Come on.
I know,
man.
and that story.
That's a weird story.
That is a weird story. A story that seems to get stranger. Also,
I heard he was like mummified for days or something like that. It's like what in the actual world is going on there?
They're saying his pacemaker said he was dead for 9 days.
I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah,
well, they said his house was like a barn or something like that. Like he literally almost like barn animals were living in it and stuff like that.
Oh, like I haven't heard that.
I have a feeling that he was losing his mind. Is what because
something was going on that was not normal, or not normal, but something weird was going on there.
Yeah, he's 95, but
95.
Great actor.
His wife is 63. That's a jump. You know that Caroline Levitt's husband is like 30 something years older than her.
It's a new trend. Look at Harrison Ford, Callista Flockhart. He can barely gum his own food now, and he's like 60 years old.
He's having a comeback though. He's in like 3 or 4 shows or something like that.
I like him. He's a good actor, but dang, dude, it's like he just don't do Indiana Jones anymore. Stop ruining that for me.
Yeah, no, he needs to stop. He needs to stop doing those.
He can't even walk anymore, let alone run. Can you please stop? You know, it's like, geez. Go get Chris Pratt. Let him do it.
I watched that show Shrinking that he's in right now with Jason, not Sudeikis, Jason, the guy who was on How I Met Your Mother.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't remember his last name. And
not that important.
He's not that great. I mean, like, that's weird. He's Harrison Ford, but I'm like, other than the fact that he's Harrison Ford, not
everything's a winner.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, the show's, whatever, something to watch. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but
most underappreciated old actors, Ed O'Neill.
Huh, that's interesting.
Modern Family, yeah, amazing.
That's interesting. By the way, I watched the first episode today of Tim Allen's new show, Shifting Gears, and I thought I'm not going to watch that because it's going to be like the third version of like, you know, of the same thing, but it's actually not. But I do enjoy hearing him like he in the show, his wife has died, and he says, you know, I watch the news in the morning just to hear a woman's voice, even if it's Nancy Pelosi sometimes. He like on that show in The Last Man Standing, he had some great takedowns.
He's very Republican in real life.
Oh yeah, so it's nice to not hear. You know, I heard Rainn Wilson say one time, and I think I've talked about this, that anytime he sees a Christian in a movie, he knows they're going to be the villain.
Well, that's Hollywood's fault. That's not
right.
True.
Right. But it's so nice to like on Last Man.
He's very left wing, so that's crazy.
He's very left wing. Yeah, he's very left wing, but he also understands that everybody has a right to believe what they believe without being, you know, eviscerated for it.
Good for him, seriously. I mean that sincerely. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's
because many on the left don't think you have that right to just, you know, be a Christian.
But he also left X because that was a real loss because he did not like, you know. But that does actually
a fascist or something. I don't know.
That does actually segue very nicely into Doge.
Yes, it does. Very nicely.
Doge it.
Doge it. Yes.
Doge it.
You know,
I've started to call it Dodgy Doge.
You know, Key, you have been personally impacted by Doge, and look, I think I'm going to go ahead and give a little summation of what I think, and then I'm going to say, Key, take off, because I'm going to let you go off on it.
I don't know about that.
But, well, because your perspective's stronger than mine on this, because I'm not directly impacted by it. But I've been waiting, you know, it's just my idea that I've been screaming for years. Please, for the love of God, take spending seriously. And I think there's elements of Doge that is absolutely wonderful. And then there's elements of it that's alienating the living crap out of even people who support the administration. And I'm not saying it should play favorites. I'm just saying maybe there's another way to go about this. And Keith enlightened me on a lot of the details, the finer details that have really been a pain, and been actually downright anxiety driving. So, I respect her opinion, of course, and I respect her feelings on this because obviously, like I said, it's directly impacting her. But again, I'm glad there's something in place, but I also have a theory as to what they're doing. I talked to a good friend of mine about it, and I'll throw this out there. Key, you tell me I'm an idiot, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't actually hurt my feelings. Um, I think what I read a report where they're quietly hiring FDA people back, and so what I think's happening is they're offering this not a buyout. I know you described it as something different, but let's just say buyout for the general public. That they're offering it, I think, as a way to just let everybody get out if they want, and then they'll just find out what they really need that way, and then they'll start rehiring people. Is what I'm starting to think is going to happen, but I could
Yeah,
be horribly
yeah.
wrong. But
No,
you
you're
go
not.
ahead. I don't. You know
You're not
more than I do.
wrong. You're not wrong about that. There's what is that expression in Silicon Valley? Something about break things and then put them back together, or something like that.
Sounds like Elon.
Yeah, I think it was actually Mark Zuckerberg who started saying it. And I forget. I'd have to do a Google search to tell you exactly what it is, but it something about, I don't know, something about breaking things.
Breaking Bad.
The thing is, you can't what you're talking about is breaking people, and not like software, and Elon Musk. I took a little bit of offense the other day when he stood up at the cabinet meeting and said, I'm just, a tech guy, or I'm just a tech support. I'm like, you're right. You're just tech support. Then why are you the one single-handedly firing through the office of OPM, which is Office of Personal Management, which is the HR department for the federal government, essentially, in a roundabout way. But that's generally speaking their function. Each agency has their own HR department. Why are you using that platform to fire people? And you're right. To dovetail on what you said in two different ways is, yes, they're starting to hire back people. I've heard that. And you're right. It's not a buyout. And the reason I think that people need to understand, like when I try to explain that to somebody, they're like, it doesn't matter. Buyout, deferred resignation. I think the reason you might find a difference here, and I'm not saying this for sure is going to happen. What they're actually doing is not a buyout. Typically a buyout comes with a lump sum and then you're done. You wash your hands of it and you're done. You go on your merry way. What they're doing here is what they call deferred resignation, or as you keep hearing in federal buildings, the DERP. The DERP. You continue to be a federal employee through 30 September, which is the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
You just get a paycheck like you do every
do you just
other
keep
week.
Going to work, or do you?
No, you go on admin leave.
Okay.
Now, what is to be determined, because these have not gone into effect yet. They were supposed to go into effect yesterday, but there was a little delay because of some emails that you guys might have heard about. There's been a little bit of they've done a lot of things that have caused a lot of mass confusion and chaos as a result of the confusion. But what I don't know the answer to yet, but I can tell you in a couple of days, is whether or not federal workers will retain their common access cards, which is for those who aren't familiar with the government, that's your lifeline. That's how you get into your computer system. That's how you get into your buildings. And you may keep your computer. So I'm all that to say, what I think may end up happening is they may end up finding that they've laid off too many people. And then they're like, oh, well, deferred resignation, you're still a federal employee. Yeah. So let me just recall you.
Because we really do need that position. Whoops.
Yeah, that's sort of what I think. And that's an hypothesis. That is a hypothesis. That's not, don't take that as like it's actually going to be what happens. Unfortunately, what is happening is it's not a self-regulating system. As much as they would like you to believe that it is, it's not. So what I mean by that is it's not like, well, they sent everybody back to the office, so only the good people will go back to the office and all the bad people will fall away. Mm-hmm. That is not at all how this is happening. You've got a lot of good people who are jumping ship and a lot of bad people who are like, well, I can make this work for a little bit longer, if that little bit longer is, retirement, or maybe they buy until they find another opportunity, or just wait it out, see, like maybe this back to the office thing isn't going to be like a permanent thing. So like I said, it's not a self-regulating system, and I'm not saying that everybody who has stayed is bad. That's not at all what I'm implying. I'm not saying
That's what I heard. Everybody's terrible.
Absolutely, everybody's terrible. Listen, some of my best friends are staying and have not taken the buyout or applied for the DERP. And that was another thing, and I can get into the mass confusion of it all. Some of my best friends have stayed, and they're trying to wait it out. I got immense amount of respect for the people that I know.
Sad when you have to say wait it out like it's a storm or like it's a hurricane. Yeah.
That's what it feels like, because here's the thing: is there was this whole return to work thing. Well, they had to change the language on that because it's not clear. I haven't been intentionally vague. I am a federal employee. I work for the Department of Defense, and I can tell you that it's not a return to work. I've proudly worked for the Department of Defense for 6.5 years, and I'm blessed to serve those who serve. Both of my sisters had 4 babies between the two of them during the pandemic. At the height of the pandemic, I used telework to go sit in Florida with them. Like I said, I live up here in Virginia, and my oldest nephew was born in May of 21, and they didn't have nursery. The nursery wasn't open during COVID. So my sister had a C-section, and we had to take turns kind of assisting with the baby. And Corey, I know you to borrow a line from what is that movie? Gone with the Wind. You don't know nothing about birth and no babies. When a woman has a C-section,
that movie. It's one movie I haven't seen.
Well, this line stands out. She says, "I don't know nothing about birth and no babies," which is Corey. You don't know nothing about birth and no babies.
Hey, how dare you? How do you assume?
I'm so sorry. My apologies. When a woman has a C-section, like she can't do anything. Like it's abdominal surgery. So my sister couldn't even lift the baby. So I have my hours-old nephew in one arm. I've got my phone in this arm, and I'm on a Teams call with all the Marine Corps installations across the globe while my sister lays in a bed recovering, because it's my turn to sit in here in the room with her. So there's been this campaign against federal workers. It was return to work. We weren't returning to work. Let me be abundantly clear. We never stopped working.
I did hate that phrase. The first time I heard it, I was like, come on, they've been working for
years. Yeah. It was return to the office. It was a decrease in flexibility and a degradation of our quality of life, which we're entitled to. And here's the thing, Republican Party, hear me say this. If you want to tell me that on November 5th, we became the party of the working class, newsflash, federal employees are the working class. We're not all bureaucrats. Oh. We're not all bureaucrats. Also,
every one of you is a pencil pusher.
We are all definitely have an agenda. My agenda is to support the military.
Nah, you're pushing. You're pushing the LGBTQ agenda. I know it.
But that's the thing, is I serve every member of the 2 branches of the military I've been blessed to serve. We are the working class. Also, some of the most educated people in our country work for the Department of Defense. This is not for nothing. And our men and women in the green suits are invaluable to our country, but they need civilian backup. And when you start purging, especially the DOD, of civilians, you are making our soldiers, our Marines, our sailors, our guardians, who have I missed? Our airmen. I should have forgotten that. My husband was in the Air Force. You're making them less safe. Hey, listen. Our coasties, you're making them less. I almost joined the
Air Force. I get it. I'm just
kidding. Air Force is great, and their guys are very cute. I don't know. But we're making all of those folks less safe. It's not about draining anything. You want America to be exactly what we know it to be, and that's the most powerful, the most lethal fighting force in the entire world. And the men and women in green need the men and women in the business suits to back them up.
Especially the senators.
Yeah, especially them. Especially them. I mean, you do need country, which, well, I mean, but to your point, you need men and women in Congress and the Senate to give a damn about them and not vote against them. You know,
but I think more importantly, they need people like you who care about them and are trying to back them up.
But most of us do, and that's the whole thing. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Now, the confusion of all of it is, I'm not opposed to downsizing the government. I'm a Republican. I mean, you know,
more importantly, a conservative and American. So
yeah, I'm not, and I pay my taxes. Like, we don't get a tax break as we work for the federal government, even though they're the ones we're paying the taxes to. We still, you know, they're not like, oh, friends and family discount. I mean, that's not how that works at all. Like, not even close.
Everybody would work for the federal government, though.
Exactly. The confusion has been, first off, with the buyout, or the DERP, deferred resignation program. It was communicated in a weird way through an email chain that we don't ever get stuff from. And really, if it hadn't been for the media coverage, I don't know that any of us would have taken it seriously. Frankly, we get a lot of cyber awareness training, We get a lot of training in general. You want to save some money in the military, cut some of the training that we get. Some of it is not necessary. But we get a lot of cyber awareness training, and it literally looked like a phishing thing. Like, it didn't look real. And then there was a delay in it, which was great, and I think it definitely got a few more people on board. Here's the rough part: is they wanted us to take it, but then Caroline Levitt, I know I've talked to you about this, Corey, because it incensed me. I see her on Fox News. This has all happened in like 30 minutes. I see her on Fox News. She's talking to people like me. Take the program. It's great. And I will say, it's better than any other offer that has been made to federal employees in a long time. Because here's the thing, I get to stay on my government health insurance through the duration, right? Which is great insurance. You take the program. It's great. Like, be American, help America out kind of deal. Like, it was a very rah. Like, it felt like, I'm like, okay, I feel good about this. Then I see her do in front of the gaggle, I see her do a stand-up outside the White House, and she's like, well, if you want to rip off the American people and take an 8-month vacation on the taxpayers' dollars, go ahead and apply for the program. I'm like, I'm sorry, do you want us to take it or do you not want us to take it?
And it's mixed messages that
and this was not like days apart. This was within like the same hour. So what is it you're trying to say to me? And here's the thing is, I understand it became very popular to say that federal workers were the problem. Federal workers are not all the problem. Some people, sure. I'm not going to speak for all of federal workers, but you're not the problem. You are maligning the middle class, or not the middle class, the working class, which is most of us are middle class. It's been that's been really like signing the thing. I was like telling somebody it felt like by signing it was like saying, right, I just want a free vacation. I'm useless. I don't really work that hard. I have no work ethic. And
you're stealing from the American people.
And I'm stealing from the American people. Listen, there are days I felt like I haven't earned my paycheck because I would do a lot of what I have done in my career for free. Listen, anytime you get to walk into the Pentagon, if you're an American and you love this country, you're going to be like, they're paying me to be in this. But first off, they even know I'm here. And secondly, like this is so cool. Like, I'm in the Pentagon. So I would gladly do that for free, but I don't have to because it's a career. So like they treated us, they made his base believe that we were all the problem, and it just, none of us deserved it. Not a single person deserved it. I don't think that there's a federal worker who deserved that. Then there's the back and forth. We didn't know we were applying for the program. Then you found out that it was actually an application to the program. This email and this whole thing about, federal workers can't come up with 5 things they did last week. I can tell you right now, 5 things I did last week. I can give you 5 things I did in the first 3 hours I was at work yesterday. Like, I have no problem with that. The issue is, again, looks like a phishing scheme. And 2, what I did may not be a threat to national security. What the guy next to me and the guy to the right of me and left me, that may not be a threat to national security. When all of a sudden you compile a list of everything you say, especially you think of DOD and DHS in particular, that cumulatively may present a security risk.
Yeah.
I mean, they do say in the email, because another one went out this morning, another that we're now required to answer, not to attach or to mention anything that was, clearance level or classified. But it's still, that's why we didn't answer. It's not that we couldn't. I'll gladly sit here and tell you 5 things I did last week. I'll tell you 5 things I did in the first 3 hours I was at work yesterday.
And I think Hegseth and I know Kash Patel were both against their agencies answering this thing, weren't they?
Yeah, but another one came out today. I've seen it in my email already. Another one came out today, and this one we are supposed to answer. There was an attached letter from SecDef Hegseth, which is still hard to say, because it's a lot to say. SecDef Hegseth. I can't even say it.
He doesn't have the greatest name for it. No,
he does. Well, it's just too. It works too. It works against him. But
we like the pick, but it's like, dude, your name is killing me. It can't be just Smith.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing about Hegseth is, there's been this push to just get rid of all probationary employees. But let's also talk about a probationary employee. Probationary employees are not all people that were hired in the last year under Biden. They aren't all learning on the job, and they aren't all brand new to federal service. Because I switched branches of the military in May of last year. So on one of these walls, in one of these baskets, I have my certificate, with 5 years of service. I'm 6, like I said, I'm 6.5 years in now, so it's a little old. But I am considered probationary to the branch I'm in now, not to the Department of Defense, though. And so, Hegseth was like, okay, let's not do that. Because those people don't deserve to go. Let's look at the lower performing probationary employees. Let's look at the people who are on performance improvement plans, what we call PIPs. What's
acronyms
the word
for everything?
Oh, it's acronym soup. What was that word that we heard so often in the campaign? Meritocracy. Yeah. And Hegseth is for it. Also, here's the thing about Hegseth, on that same note, that I think is great, that has nothing to do with the reduction in force, is he is one of the first. I have to double check I have to fact check this to tell you exactly where he falls in line with this. SecDef that has not gone to the Military Service Academy. He got into West Point, but he didn't go to West Point. And that's important because it's a good old boys club. It's cronyism at its finest. People don't think cronyism exists in the military, but it does. So it's
that's exactly why I like the pick. It was outside the box.
Exactly. So I think that I don't want to go into all the firings that happened, but I think that is a change we're going to see with Hegseth, and I do feel like he is a guy who genuinely likes the Department of Defense. I don't think it's just a place to land, and I don't think it was just like, oh well, I think he genuinely has a heart for the Department of Defense and the people who serve it in and out of uniform. So far, I'm pleased with it. And I guess just to wrap it up and put a bow on it, it has been the vitriol that's been launched at federal workers. It's not showing the cards. We don't know what's coming down the pipe. So it's like, you don't, that first email that went out about the buyout was you had days to make the decision that was going to impact your entire career. But also, if I don't decide to jump ship right now, what are my options down the road?
Yeah.
And it's they purposely didn't tell you that. Why did they not tell you?
They're not treating you like people with lives and
no, exactly.
And if you were inherently, we all knew you were doing a terrible job or something like that, I'd be like, well, you kind of have to just dump them and get rid of them. But that's not the case here. It was literally just broad stroked across the board,
Yeah.
good or bad. And it's like everybody's an equal all of a sudden as far as their performance and their job. And I just like look at it and go, when you said that, I was like, I just there's a better way to do this. I'm positive. But what do you think about him now saying it was really just a pulse check, that 5 thing, that 5?
Well, they didn't ask us to like tell them the state or the capital of the state they lived in or where we were born in. Like, it wasn't like that.
It felt like a performance review out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's fine. But it's also not going to make
that's not Elon's job.
That's not Elon's job, and it's AI that's going to review it all. And does my job make sense when it's just a list of 5 bullets of things I did last week? Do I like how much information do you want? Like, wrote a report on this. But what if like you don't know that's even the scope of my position description, my PD? Like, you don't know. Like, it's all very like I've said of it is like, Corey, if I was to explain to you what I did last week, it would be much different than how I would explain to my boss what I did last week. Because you don't know what my day-to-day looks like. You have a big idea of what my job is. My boss knows what my day-to-day job is. And so that to me was like the perplexing thing about it is it's like how much detail do you want? I wrote a report on this because I do this and I work for these programs and I support these you know what I mean? Like what level, like how far down do I need to go to? Am I literally defending my job right now, or you know what I mean?
It causes a lot of pressure, anxiety in your job.
Anxiety,
it's unnecessary. You don't need this.
Oh.
Honestly, I mean, look, I'm going to throw out a scenario where it would be a better way of doing these things. It seems pretty broad stroked. It seems pretty sudden. It seems pretty like I don't. Some people would say this is a good thing. I think it's a bad thing. It seems pretty neutral in the sense it doesn't matter if you're good or bad at your job. They're just looking to get rid of you, it seems like, or looking to push you out, as what what it feels like. I mean, they might say that's not it, but that's what it feels like. Every time you've talked to me about it, I'm like, man, if I were in that situation, I'm trying to put in your shoes. I'm like, I would feel like somebody trying to push me out.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible feeling when you feel like you're actually, because I know you're a hard worker. I know you're good at your job. I know you. So I don't worry about whether or not you're just siphoning off the system or some BS like that. I know there's few people who do that. Well, that's every freaking business in the world, So, but that being said, I would feel like, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
And I totally get where you're coming from on that. It's been very, very like impersonal.
Yeah, it has, and it's hard to not take it personally because it's not just a job to me.
Of course, and another reason I know you have a passion for what you're doing. So
yeah, yeah, it's not just a job for me.
And they need to keep people like you who are passionate about what they're doing. That would be a smart decision.
I would think so. You want people to, and I don't just say that because I'm talking about myself, but I'm the rule, not the exception. I love serving my country. And I didn't feel called to serve in uniform, but the fact that I get to support our military in ways other than being married to someone in the military,
that's how dedicated you are to America.
That's the whole reason. I don't even like him. It's just that he's a veteran.
He annoys me, quite frankly.
I can't stand him. I try not to talk to him. No,
I try not to speak to him.
Try not to speak to him. What do you remember his name, by the way? Because I can't think of it.
Mark. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's it either. It'll come to me.
I think it was Bart. Start with a B, didn't it?
Something. No, I really love serving the military. I love serving my country. It's not just an affront, to like a career, like, it's something I'm really proud of. And no matter what my longevity is, in this space, it is something that I will carry with me and always be proud of. And here's the thing, this is only going to last a period of time and then we'll move on to something else. And, a lot of people may be able to jump back in, but it's like, are you going to be gun shy? Be like,
yeah,
I don't know that I want to go do that again because that was really unfun last time.
Hey, welcome back. I don't know.
Right. So I don't know. I think it's
What would you say would be a better way to have gone about it? And I'm not saying there isn't, and this isn't a question saying, well, what do you think would be better? No, it's a question of like, there obviously this would have been handled better. I'm just
right.
looking for ideas. What do you think it would have been better?
Well, I think it's not a first 40-day thing. I
Amen
think
to
it's
that. I'll agree with you there. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I think it's a lengthier process than what they've made it
something
be.
like over a couple years. You know, where
Yeah,
you're starting to really analyze each position and figure out whether or not. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, because they're also doing goofy things. Like I don't know that people are paying attention to it, but it's like, or maybe they're not paying attention. Maybe nobody clocked this. Okay, so we made Fort Liberty Fort Bragg again, but do we have any idea how much it costs to redo all the signage?
yeah.
Like,
Probably quite a
so
bit.
so you're like, okay, so you're firing all these people, but by the way, you're now spending money to do weird stuff like that. And I think you have talked about like how that was like, holy cow, that
They
was
could
such a
just get the
crazy,
old signage, can't they?
but they threw it away. It's like
Oh well.
it's gone. They gotta update it. So there's a lot to it. The
Hmm.
name of the installation is on a lot of things. A lot of things. We're talking highway signs and multiple entrances to a military base. I don't know how many military bases you've been on, Corey, but there's a lot of them. A lot of times, the the
I've
name
been
of
on one. Yeah.
the name of the installation, uh, the military installation you're on is on everything. So and it's not just the installation you're at. It's often on signs for at other installations too.
Hmm.
So this whole point is like whether one supports the name change or not. Like it's sort of like. Okay, so on this
So
hand
my
is
job's
cutting
not valuable
spending.
enough, but changing the name to every, yeah, I
Yeah.
gotcha.
So to answer your question, I think again, it's more than a 40-day plan. I think it takes more than an AI, whatever we're going to call it, AI program or whatever,
Hmm.
to go through it. Um,
I
and I
definitely don't
think
like that aspect of it. I think it's definitely needs a
no,
human element to understand the importance of each job. I understand people look at it and go, well, human might get compassionate towards people. It's like, well, that's
they
not a
should.
terrible, yeah, that's not a terrible thing to be compassionate, but it's also, you need to. I mean, like, I'll tell you what, an AI can. I'm just a painting contractor. I don't compare what I do to you do, but I'll say in my field,
Just
so
a
I can.
painting contractor.
Well,
I like
that's
you're just a small business owner, like not the backbone of the American economy or anything.
I'm definitely not helping the American economy much, I promise. But that being said, I wouldn't want an AI to tell me how my job was or something like that.
Right.
I'd go to another person's job and measure what they did compared to what I know they can do on that job
Yeah.
type of thing. So somebody who's been in your place to say, okay, Key is doing the absolute best she can, and she's doing actually a real productive job. I think that position is valuable instead of an AI going, whatever
Right.
algorithm spits out, and
And it's not even just like, yeah, individual performance should be considered, and it veteran status,
yeah.
whether you're the spouse of someone in the military,
Oh,
and
you're
those.
looking to milk that? Huh? No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, I'm talking about active duty, and those are things they're considering, but they have also messed up because AI is like not programmed all the right way, so they're not.
Mm,
AI doesn't have all the information, right? AI,
yeah.
I guess, is only I feel 100 years old saying this, but I guess AI is only as good as information it has. But I also feel like from what I understand, AI can synthesize information. But yeah, I think it takes more than AI. But also, I got to tell you,
We are
Corey.
absolutely headed towards Terminator, 100%.
Well, I'm afraid. I'm afraid we may be, and I don't know that I want to live in a world like that, because that scares me a little bit.
I am
Um,
not John Connor or anybody that don't need to follow me anymore. So
yeah, no, I don't. I like computers and technology, but at some point, like you're saying, you need that human element. And also, here's the
mm,
thing, Corey. We've been down this before. Do you think this is the first time someone's asked me to tell them what I do? No. Also, that's another point to earlier about like federal employees. We have no accountability. Do you have any idea how often federal employees are reviewed? Like very often, we go through multiple checks throughout the year. Like
oh,
we
be honest. You collect the paycheck, you just lay at home eating milk and cookies, and
I
you watch Jerry
do.
Springer all day, and
Yeah, I do. You're right. Even though Jerry Springer is dead, so that's fun.
reruns. That's what I'm
Reruns,
saying.
reruns,
Yeah.
reruns. But federal employees really we are reviewed constantly. We have one main annual evaluation, and that's like at that point, you have to have like all these like what we call SMART goals accomplished, and you have to have all this training accomplished. And then in between that time, you're reviewed multiple times throughout the year. I mean, multiple times. I mean, honestly, it's a tighter rubric than any time I've ever been reviewed for any other job in the past. So there is a lot of accountability of federal employees. But to back the point about a better way to do it, we've been asked multiple times throughout the pandemic to do an hour by hour account of our time. When we were all home, they wanted to see what we were doing hour by hour, to actually an hour by hour log. And we would do this for 2 or 3 weeks on end. And so it's not the first time we've been asked what it is we do. And here's the thing. If you're hiring employees that aren't submitting their deliverables and meeting their deadlines, you're hiring bad employees.
True.
And so that's kind of on them. But as far as the reduction in force, to put it to summarize, I would say it's not a 40-day plan. I would say definitely take a deeper look than an AI list of 5 things and just go probationary, gone kind of a deal. But also, if you're going to reduce the force, be real about your intentions. Because remember, it started off, we're just going to get them back in the office, which everybody knew that was bogus, right? And then it
return to work.
Return to work.
You haven't been working these last 4 years.
That's what is such a pain, is I haven't been working.
It's hard to get back into it. Yeah,
I know. I don't even know what I do. Do you know what I do? I don't.
Ask Elon. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll call him. But also just put all the cards on the table, because this isn't a business deal, in the sense that you aren't like you want. I think you want both people to know all the moves, because we're not supposed to be working against each other. Like you being the federal government in the situation are trying to accomplish
don't
something.
Insult me that way. Yeah.
Sorry, you're the administration is really what I'm trying to say. Is you're the administration?
Weight, but seriously,
no, you're the administration, and we're your federal workers. We're on the same team. We should be on the same team. Tell us, okay. So first thing we're gonna offer this buyout. If you don't take that, there is gonna be a reduction in force, and this is gonna be how we're gonna go about it. There's other programs too, like early retirement, like there's a VERA program, which is early retirement and stuff. Like, just be real about how those things are going to be impacted by it. And let us make the decision that's best for our careers and our families. Don't leave us in the dark to go, is this as good as it's going to get? Because I can also tell you the tension in the building that I work in, you could cut it with a knife. There are people, when they walk in, you hear everybody like start their computer, like, is there going to be a computer? My coworker, the other day, she comes in and we have to use cards to get into the building, which is how most federal employees get into buildings. And like all technological things, she tapped it and it went red instead of green. And she said for a hot second, she thought, oh, they fired me. And she's like, I got nervous. And then she did it again and she was fine. It was just like a glitch with the way she did it. But it's like that, to actually have that thought, because I know that's happened to me 100 times going into buildings, in my career. And for whatever reason, it freezes or whatever, and you're like, oh crap. But I never once thought it's because I got fired. I just thought, well, my card got locked or something. But to actually have that thought, even if it's a 3-second thought, what a terrible thought.
I'd actually be mad. Like, you couldn't call me.
You couldn't leave. I drove all the way up here.
Yeah. In DC traffic, you couldn't. No phone call, nothing.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing too. Is for me, the staying or the going of it all has been that I live about 55 miles away. It only takes me 50 minutes to get there in the morning. Corey knows, because I often use his inbox as a way to entertain myself on the drive home. We're looking at a solid 2 hours. That's if I get home in 2 hours, I'm like, yes, I got home early. But we're looking closer to 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I wake up at 3:30. I'm out the door by 4:30. I'm usually to my desk, sitting at my desk by 5:30. I leave because I have a compressed work schedule. So I work 8 9s, 1 8, and then I have every other Friday off. So my days. So if it sounds like I'm calculating my days weird, that's why. I leave my office at 9 or at 3:30, and I'm not usually walking in the door till about 6:15, 6:30. It costs an exorbitant amount to go up to work. We have to pay for parking, and if you get to the building after a certain time, the parking doubles. Last week, I spent almost $100 on parking. Just parking, just parking.
It's amazing that you're a government worker, yet you even experience the inefficiency of government.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of us have multiple places that we sit. Like some people don't realize that the branches rent space from the DoD at the Pentagon. It's not just free. And then like if you have like a headquarters level building in a military base, they're renting that space from the installation. So it's like, let's DOGE do your due diligence here and look and say, like, there are people that I know who have desks in multiple offices. I don't know why. And these are nice built. Some like I worked at both levels. Okay, like I was always headquarters, but in the previous branch, I was headquarters level, but I was on an installation. As they say in the military, you do a lot with duct tape. We'll leave it at that. The building I sit in now is just outside of.
We build our airplanes with duct tape now. So
so I guess we're gonna run on that that material. I in between two buildings, and they're nice buildings. There's a lot of duplicity in these things, and also how much money they spend just to support these buildings.
See, that's where they could start looking to possibly save money first, is projects that don't need to be done. And that I'll say this on one last topic on the issue on this topic is I think they're also unfortunately going through this riff because they're pressured by their base to get it done quick. And I will say this in their defense, not saying I agree with them, I'm just saying this in their defense. And the duality of thought, right? Is that I understand that like typical government is okay, we're going to do it, it's just going to take time, and people have heard it before, we grow immediately. It doesn't make it right to do it that way. I just think they're trying to think, what's the way I can do this fast, and then and then we'll hire them back, type of thing or whatever. And I just wonder how much that's going into it. Honestly, I feel like you and I are the type of Republicans that would like hear like, hey, if Elon had come out and said, look, we're going to reduce the force, but we're going to do it with dignity, and we're going to do it slow and make sure we're analyzing these things properly. I would hope that people could say, okay, I trust Elon on this because that's what he is versus a politician. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wish they would have taken advantage of that honeymoon part of it. But I don't know how much the base would have agreed with or not. But I think you and I'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of the base who are like, if everybody isn't fired tomorrow, then that's it.
It's a big number, and I think that's what it comes down to is literal numbers. To say you went through and you got rid of X number of federal buildings and X number of programs, the number's not going to be that big. But if you can go through and say we got rid of 500,000 federal employees, that number's big. And what does that compute to in salary and benefits? Probably not as much as you think it does.
Yeah.
And that's the chief issues. I think it's a numbers game right now. And you're right. We're all used to government being completely inefficient. But in the name of efficiency, you are risking having to
redo doesn't necessarily mean fast.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. And I think that that's a duality that they're having to exist in, and that efficient and being believable. Right, to your point about like, plenty of administrations that said we're going to do this, and then it's not materialized. So efficient and timeliness are not the same thing, but yet at the same time you want to be the person who gets it done day one. Remember, he was going to be a dictator on day one. By the way, not a dictator the entire time, as the
he's Hitler.
He's Hitler.
Yeah.
But
there's things he did do fast, like that border he did fast.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, couldn't that buy some what do you call it? Equity.
Yeah.
With the voting base, say, look, you've seen what I've done here. Trust me on this. I just can't take human beings who work for the federal government and pull the rug from underneath them and their whole lives. And we can't just fire everybody and oh shoot, we actually need that. Please come back. Like you said, who's going to want to come back to that situation? It's an unstable situation. I wish, again, there's so many elements to this. I think, well, they could have done it slow and still had credibility.
Well, you were the one who sent me the tweet from Musk, and it was like the day after that email went out last week, and it feels like last week was a month. It was nasty. The SpongeBob SquarePants meme, first off. So come on, have a little bit of respect. And then it was like, what was it like? Complained about Elon, complained about Trump, complained. I went to the office for the first time in a long time. Checked my email for the first time. Like it was. I'm like, what are you?
It really diminished what everybody does.
Yeah, like first of all, what are you, 10? Secondly, it's like it's a cartoon.
And you and I weren't even in 100% agreement on everything at the time, but I sent that going saying to you guys, this is terrible. This is
terrible. Oh yeah, I showed that around to people in my office, and people were like, I had someone say to me, if someone was on the edge, this would have pushed him over.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's been a lot. And also, this is the last point that I'll make on it, and I think it's really important because the base has gone after federal employees.
Mm-hmm.
I think that somehow there's been a disillusionment that's happened in the base that has made them believe the MAGA base, the true MAGA base, who will follow Donald Trump to the end of the cult of Trump. There are a lot of us who work in the federal government who voted for Donald Trump.
It's company included.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's like you understand that I'm on your team. First off, Corey knows there's a flag over my shoulder. That's the team I'm on. I don't, America, and there's both colors on there, red and blue. Let me be clear about that.
Team America.
Team America. Oh my gosh, that was a crazy movie.
20 years ago, something like that. We were old. We were getting old.
But yes, Team America in a less absurd way. But yes, fully. And I just think that's what's free. Like, I'm not the enemy. Like, if you're gonna make all Democrats the enemy, I'm not the enemy. Trump may not be on my Mount Rushmore, but and also Trump is no Reagan, because like my grandfather survived the strike as an air traffic controller in the 80s. And my grandfather made under Reagan and made the difficult decision to cross the picket line. But Reagan, I don't just say this because I'm a Reagan, groupie. But I'll just call it what it is. My dog's name is Reagan. But actually, I think on my I'm looking at it. I'll pull. Can you see this thing I'm putting out right here? That's a bust of Ronald Reagan.
Oh, I do see it. Yes, I do
actually looks a lot like Nixon. But I'll send you a picture of it for it. It's very strange. Somebody gave it to me. But all that said, like, Reagan stood up for the American people, and honestly, he stood up for the system that is the federal government in that situation. What he didn't stand up for was unions, and that's the other thing. And that's the really last point I'll make is the unions. If we had any doubt that the unions were not part of the Democrat Party and like a wing of the Democrat Party, it's the way the unions have fought the buyout. If they're not going to change the outcome. Let's be abundantly clear about that. They're going to reduce the force, period. They're not changing that. If they think they're going to change that, they're nuts. And no judge is going to change that either. What they've fought for is to not have originally it was to not have the buyout. I don't even know what they're fighting for anymore. I'm like, you understand what you're saying is that the people that you're supposed to be protecting, you're fighting to make sure they get the least amount when they walk away. Because you're not changing the outcome. No. What you're changing is how well we walk away from the situation. You're not changing the president's agenda at all. If anything,
if there's any president doesn't care what they think, it'd be.
And what does Trump do when the Democrats go after him? He digs in deeper.
Yep. He gets angrier.
So you're only making him want to do it even more, which is counter to what you say.
Total Michael Scott. I'm going to date your mother even harder.
I'm going to date your mother even harder. Exactly. And you know what? Liberal courts have ruled in Trump's favor with most of these things. So if the Democrats
Trump's
are waiting,
legal team's not stupid. His legal team's pretty good. Yeah.
No, exactly.
And with Bondi in house now, he's got a good legal team around him. I understand she just had a PR nightmare. I get it, but that being said, she actually is a good legal mind. She's just not the greatest politician in the world.
Well, because she's not a politician, and that's the whole thing. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Is Pam Bondi's not a politician, and the blunder that Corey's talking about is what both he and I both. It's funny when he and I both have the same reaction to something because like we send it like at the same time, like oh my god, can you believe that just happened? Is the whole Epstein file thing and having quote unquote influencers walk out with Epstein. I'm like, I'm all for free speech and
I totally think that's Carolyn Leavitt.
yeah, yeah.
You put that first thought, and I was like, you know what? That's a good thought. I think you're right.
I don't think I don't think Bondi trusts the media.
This isn't her. She's let me go get the job done. That's her, you know.
Yeah. I don't think she trusts the media. Like I think most, honest broker Republicans, honest broker. That's a line that Winsome Sears up here uses a lot. Honest broker.
I like that.
But yeah, but I don't know that she would have gone to like what's the guy DC Drano, and then like I like some of these people.
Don't bring
their
names into it. I can't stand these people.
And you know what? Some of them I like, Corey. Like Isabel Brown. She's a young woman who's like very pro-life.
I think there was Cat Turd there. I don't remember if he was there or not, but and then DC Drano was definitely there. He stands out in a crowd, but the people like that I cannot flipping stand because they're hypocrites and liars, and they just like change their opinions based on who's paying them, and I can't stand people like that.
But then you had people like Nick Freitas there. Nick Freitas, do you know who Nick Freitas is?
Yeah, I know you told me about him several times.
He's an I don't know, it's hard to call him an influencer. I mean, I guess what he's most known for is first off, it's a podcast I highly recommend Christians and Republicans listen to. But it's called
Making an honor for any of them to be called. I mean, even if they like us and they're kind of back and forth on Trump a little bit, it's more like if they called me I wouldn't do that stunt because I think stunt's terrible. But if they called me about it, I'd be like, wow, that's actually an honor. That's pretty cool.
But, well, I heard Sage Steele talking to Meghan McCain about being in that jump seat for the new media seat at the White House during the daily press briefing, and I think it's an interesting concept. But what I thought was most interesting about the conversation is that Sage Steele said that she didn't run that question by Caroline Leavitt. I don't know. I can't remember what her question was, but it was a question she as a media person, and now she's a reputable journalist. I mean, she was at ESPN for like 30 years. I mean, she's reputable. Well, I mean, like she knows journalism, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm just kidding. I just don't like ESPN.
Well, yeah, no, I'm with you, and I don't think she does either.
Fair point.
I don't think she would have sued them. But what I mean is she went to school for journalism and stuff like that, so she knows how to craft a question. Is what I'm saying. She's not, someone who's just doing a podcast out of her basement. I say as someone talking, but to be fair, I have media training. It's literally my job is communication, so I'm not completely without. But anyways, point is this: she knows how to draft a question. So maybe that's how they treated her. Would they have treated everybody like that? I don't know. But that was interesting to hear her say that they didn't ask her for her question in advance. So I mean, it was off. If
it were Biden, darn well he'd want a question, answers, and a reaction all in advance. He'd just
Well, it would have been in the notebook, so it would have all just been right in the notebook.
For all I know, they went in there, they rehearsed it all, and then they put it live. I mean, I don't know because that dude. You ask, what's your flavor ice cream? He'd say cookie. It's like, what the, it's like, what the world? I love the fact now that I will go into this another podcast. I mean, we'll keep doing this, but I really want to talk about Jake Tapper's new book coming up that I just
oh my gosh, please. And like, there's you ever see, like on TV, they'll do like stupid criminal stories and it's like the guy who like goes into the store to like call his buddy while like, the cops are there or
whatever.
Sets
himself on fire.
Something. I'm like, I feel like that's Jake Tapper.
Yeah,
like
right
what?
Yeah.
You are almost incriminating yourself. Remember the Fifth Amendment? Like you have the right. Like.
I'm still gonna buy the book and read it, by the way, because it's gonna be interesting. But I'm not gonna forget the fact that he complicit in all this. So.
Well, yeah, and how like you said when you text me when it came out, or not when it came out, but when the news came out about it, that it's like how is this gonna go against Trump?
You know what? That's another topic for another podcast in the sense that the Democrats really are taking a massive look in the mirror, and I think Tapper's book.
Are they?
Yeah, I'm thinking they are.
Are they, Corey?
I really do.
See that? Did you not see that?
I'm not saying everybody is, but
they're
there's
talking
definitely
about
an internal
AOC.
fighting going on.
I'm
hearing. I'll put it this way: I'm hearing liberals that used to sound ridiculous all the time are starting to make some sense now. And I'm like,
You mean they're starting to sound like Fetterman is what they're sounding like?
they might be looking at Fetterman like, you know what? A lot of people like that guy. I think it's because he's not a crazy liberal.
Or he's reading the wall, the hand.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because like
Well, when I
Pennsylvania,
see Fareed Zahid or whatever saying the Democrat cities are garbage, I'm like, what? I thought you would be. I mean, in the past, it doesn't matter how bad they were. They're palaces, they're heaven, they're golden streets, they're just
yeah,
beautiful. And now they're saying, you know what? Crime is rampant, schools are down, and the finances are way out of control. It's like, yeah, we've been saying this for 30 years.
oh yeah, no, and then you've got like, I mean, Grant, Eric Adams is his own weird little self in the sense that he used to be a Republican. Now he's a Democrat, but he still has like some Republican tendencies, but he's like swears up and down he'll never be Republican again. But yet, look at him. He's showing up, doing
He'll
stuff with Trump.
again.
Yeah, and maybe he will. Maybe he will.
He'll be a moderate Republican to win Congress in New York somewhere. So.
But here's the thing. I never have a problem with people showing up for the other party. I had a problem when Matt Gaetz was standing there with all the liberals when he was getting Kevin McCarthy ousted from the speakership. That I had a problem with. But I never have a problem when we cross party lines. I mean, unless it's just an absolute ridiculous thing to cross party lines over. I don't have a problem with it. I think about, you and I are old enough to, we were adults on 9/11. Remember watching all of Congress stand on the steps of the Capitol building, sing God Bless America? Like, no, we're never going to get back to that, right? But
nope.
The symbolism there is, still, I think something that Americans are searching for. And that's why I think Bobby Kennedy was so attractive. And I think Tulsi Gabbard, who granted is now a Republican, was so attractive.
I think that's why what Trump did yesterday attracted a lot of Americans. Like, thank you, pro-America. How about that?
Yep. So I don't know. The Democrat Party is definitely an inflection point, but let's be true and be real about it and tell what it is. So is the Republican Party, because we are now officially, even though we are in the midst of the second Trump administration, we are looking at a post-Trump Republican Party, because right now he might be getting the attention because he's the guy, he's the face, but what is also happening is people, like we were saying earlier, we're looking at that couch yesterday going, who's the next rock star? Who's the next
JD
man or
Vance
woman?
Definitely got to have the inner track right now. So
right. Who's on our bench right now? We've got a cabinet full of great Republicans. Who amongst you might be the next? So we are almost living in a post-Trump world. So we're at an inflection point too. But with the Democrats, I think they need to do what Democrats do really well, and that's to huddle, be quiet, go away for a little while, and then come back out. But they're kind of not doing that.
I think they're trying to figure out their messaging out loud, though. They're doing that out in public,
which is not normal in the Pelosi Democrat world, where Nancy Pelosi was very good at buttoning up everything and then being like, shh, don't tell anybody anything. And then all of a sudden they emerge like the white smoke with the Pope, and you're like, oh, and we have decided this, and we're all in lockstep. And you don't see the Democrats going against each other too often, where the Republicans were like, oh, we're just like. But at the same time, I like that it shows free thinking. My dad always gets at me about, like, you're so hard on the Republican Party. I'm like, yes, I'm hard on the Republican Party. I gave my blood, sweat, and tears to it in my 20s, but that's not even the thing. We're the country, or rather, we're the party of a family, the party of country, the party of God. Not that you can't be those things on the left. I don't want to paint that picture, but that is the things that we
got at the convention. So I don't know.
That's true. So I am harder on the Republican Party, but at the same time, like I said, I'm kind of like, at least you see the dissension. And I just wish it wasn't so, like the Freedom Caucus. Talk about, I keep saying go pound sand. They can go pound sand because they're adding. There's no value add to the Liberty or rather the Freedom Caucus.
I do like Thomas Massey though, and Chip Roy. I do like those guys.
Okay, Chip Roy, yes. Like what? But how is he? He's an enigma to me. He was a DeSantis guy, but then sometimes he goes off and he does stuff, and I'm like stuff that
everybody's different, I guess. But I like the fact that Massey just voted against the budget, which is another thing we could talk about another one.
Yeah.
But I think what are we, an hour 45 into this now? So
yeah.
So I'm gonna try to make it 2 parts here. So anybody who's listening to this probably is listening to part 2 by now. And because I'm not sure how I'm going to go about it, but I'm definitely looking forward to getting this up, because I think actually the conversation to me is fun.
Yeah.
And I hope people enjoy listening to it. from two. I wouldn't say like old pros. I'd say Key's more of a pro than me, but
we're seasoned. We're both seasoned.
Seasoned in politics. Yeah, it's not that we're perfect, but and nobody's perfect. But two older seasoned. Okay, seasoned.
Seasoned. We're mature.
Matured conservatives who can call balls and strikes on Donald Trump rather than worship him or hate him incessantly. So
yeah, because you can two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, I think I said to somebody today, I was like, you know what? I see some people who they let their love of Trump do their talking, and they let their hatred of Trump do their talking, and it's every single thing that happens, and nothing's ever good, nothing's ever bad, and that's when I take your opinion a little less seriously. Like, okay,
right?
It's like he's not perfect, but he's not the devil either. So,
that's all accurate. So, well, thanks for listening to everybody who's taken the time to listen to one or two of this, and if everybody's enjoying it, we'll keep doing it, because we're not gonna have these conversations whether people are listening or not.
Probably, yeah. It's like they're either on DMs or they're on YouTube here. So
15 years strong at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And we're still as hooked in. We thought we were out of it. They keep pulling us back in.
They do, but it impacts so much. And you know what? At the same time, it's history. We're watching history unfold.
That's true, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is. Frustrating, but fun.
Frustrating at times, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. When it personally impacts you the way it is you right now, it's frustrating as all get out. When it impacted all of us during COVID, we were all frustrated. So.
I saw a thing this morning that said, Adam might have posted it. It said, can I get an ETA on the when this too shall pass?
Please, God, anything?
Anything, please. Just the tracking code for when the next blessing is going to arrive.
But we could use it now. It's a sweet meter of death. Come on, let's go. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's as always, Corey. It's always fun, and we'll catch everybody on the next one, I guess.
Yep, we'll do it again. We'll round it back up. So reload the chamber. So anyway,
there you go.